artists together, and they will be able to travel to Europe with this card. They will be able to enter all the museums and have a solidarity between each other and the rest of the artists of the world. Well, if you come here first, I'll tell you a few words about the art history map. People ask me how long it took me to do the art history map. Arada geriden çek ki insanlar da gözüksün. And the art history map is how long it took me. It took me 6 months physically to write all the names, to do all the connections, but it took me some 50 years to travel all the world museums, to buy some 50,000 books, study them, think about them. So when somebody says, well, do you have a book of this? I say, thank you, go back to the 50,000 books if you can. So this is the synthesis and the summary of those 50,000 books and those hundreds of trips worldwide. So this art history map, it took me from beginning of October of 2018 till towards the end of April 2019. So it took me 6 months to do it, plus 50 years, as I say. Now, just to summarize you how I did it, from Renaissance and Leonardo till here, till today, during all these some 500 years and change, you have all the relations of all the art movements between each other. Before Renaissance here, you have all the different influence zones from the world, the cultural influence zones. So you have Chinese art, Japanese art, Oceanic art, Aboriginal art, Islamic art, Ottoman art, and all these different type of art, including Egyptian, including Peruvian, South American. All these art forms are especially going to be very important and influenced, especially after Impressionism, after modern art is born. Now, all this left-hand side is the Western world. This is the Western world, and this is the Eastern and Southern world. The Western world is, so here you have all the philosophers, scientists, statesmen, emperors of the Western world. And then you even have Steve Jobs and all the technology people towards the end. And you have the musicians, the filmmakers. So this is the Western world. These are the centuries, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20th century, 21st century. And here you have the same thing for the East and the South. So Atatürk and Che and Lenin, and they're all, or Kanuni, or the Tsars, and the Chinese dynasties, they're all on the right side. And on the left side, you got Darwin, you got Freud, you got Marx, you got Napoleon, and you got Isaac Newton, and you got the Declaration of Independence, etc. This is all on the left-hand side. So here you see all these relations, and these are not random arrows, and I'll show you examples about that. So, for instance, the center of the art world had been Paris all this time. Romanticism, Impressionism, Cubism, Surrealism, and it has always been Paris. But enters Hitler here in the 1930s, and as you know, Second World War followed, and you got all the artists running away from Hitler because he makes that art is shown as degenerate art, modern art. He hates modern art. and all the artists run away to New York, and America declares war to Nazism and it welcomes all these artists. So the center of the art world moves from Paris to New York. So you can read this in the map. Or here, for instance, you got for the entrance of photography around 1830. Daguerre and Nietzsche invent photography. So, for instance, if Howard becomes a king, so before we needed a painter to paint you as a king, whereas now with photography we don't need that anymore. So Impressionists, they said art has to do something different with colors, with light, with the sun, with the reflection of the sun, with the feelings that it brings us. So the result is that modern art is born with really Impressionism, and this is triggered by photography. Or here, around 1880, enters motion pictures, film, Lumiere brothers. So, which makes that in 1900 or around 1907 you have Cubism, 1910 you have Futurism, because of course that Cubism is influenced by African and Iberic sculptures, but it's also influenced by the different angles of cameras. So I look at you from front, from back, from right, from left, and I'm going to end up making a cubist portrait of Emine, but the point is, it's like different cameras from different angles taking your vision. So the point is that Futurism later here, Marinetti, Boccioni, Balla, Severini, Italian artists. Cubism is Picasso and Braque. It's Spanish and French joint venture. Futurism is all Italian. You must be happy with that. And so Futurism shows the speed, and those were artists that liked the steel, that liked the modernism, that liked even war. They wanted speed and the new millennium, the new generation of how technology and modernism moved people forward and humanity forward, and they didn't mind war. But with Futurism, you could see a running dog or a running athlete, or the speed of the street, the speed of the car. So again, this had to do with influence by filmmaking. So we see the influence again of the Lumiere brothers and motion pictures. So again, analyzing this timeline. For instance, when we say pop art, you used to think about it as an Andy Warhol story. But the point is, pop art is very much, we can say it started with Hokusai. And with Hokusai's famous wave painting, you must have seen it many times. So this wave painting comes to French nabis, where you see again very flat colors and simplified forms and figures. And you go to the posters of Toulouse-Lautrec, Art Nouveau, and then you go to Stuart Davis. Stuart Davis is an American artist from the 30s, and he's a real pioneer of what we call later pop art. And so here you can come down to pop art in the 60s from all this line I told you, or you can come from the abstract expressionists last period, Rauschenberg, Jasper Jones, Larry Rivers, and you can come to pop art through them. Same for expressionism. We tend to think of expressionism as Gauguin, Van Gogh, Munch, which are the three most famous pioneers of Expressionism. But you can start Expressionist era with El Greco, Spanish painter here in the 16th century, or you can start it again around the same time with Mehmet Siyahkalem. If you want, you can go back to cave times, cave painting. But you come from there, then you go to Goya and Géricault, Delacroix, the Romantics. Then you pass through Courbet, French painter, Courbet and Daumier, and you come to Symbolism, which is a North European movement. And then you come to the famous trio, Gauguin, Van Gogh, Munch, which comes down and influences German Expressionism and French Fauvism. And from there, like French Fauvism with Matisse, Braque, Dufy, and German Expressionism with Kandinsky, Nolde, Kirchner, all names you know. And then you can come down the Expressionist line to the American Abstract Expressionist movement, de Kooning, Pollack, Rothko, with their French counterpart here, Art Informel, Abstraction Lyrique, and you have all the artists like Walls, Harpoon, Riopel, Nicolas de Stael, who unfortunately committed suicide, etc. And from Abstract Expressionists, in the Expressionist line, you can take a line down to the 80s, New Expressionism, the international movement of which I'm a part of. You will know Sandro Chia, Clemente Cucchi, Italian artists, or American artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat, Schnabel, David Salle, etc. And this is the movement which we were part of in the beginning of the 80s. So this is the Expressionist line. Surrealism, people tend to think of it as Dali. I prefer personally a little bit more Magritte, but it starts with the 15th century and Hieronymus Bosch. And from Hieronymus Bosch we go down to Holland Central School, we go down this line to Symbolism, and then we come down to Surrealism, but we can also come down to Surrealism from Dadaism, which is a performance, happening, provocation, movement of happenings. And then you can also come to Surrealism from the metaphysical, Pittura Metafisica paintings of De Chirico, another Italian master. And so,
what are the three movements that you would say you most associate yourself with through these works and through your life? What do you think are the three
that I associate
that you would love to